We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
It's my birthday, you bastards.
Hello.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to say thank God for Joe Biden. She is an embarrassment to the state of Georgia.
Well, we all have our opinions.
Amen to that, and I've got mine.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for my birthday present on the TV. Yay! I love that. I was doing so well on my birthday. I was doing so well. I was, first of all, can you see my array here? So Brett got me bobbleheads, new ones, everybody. So this is Kamala. Welcome Kamala to the bobblehead craft. And I got a Joe. So now I have Obama and Joe, and then Joe and Kamala, and I have RBG, who is probably going to be replaced by KBG, and probably next year I'll get her as a bobblehead, and that'll be great. No, I was doing so well for my birthday. The economic news was fabulous. I told you yesterday we hit 6.9% GDP in the last quarter for a year's total GDP. 5.7% growth. Oh! 5.7% growth. Oh my God. Okay. We got today 14 new subpoenas issued by the January 6th Select Committee. 14 new ones. These went to the fake electors, yes, to the people who actually signed on as chair or secretary from the 7 states that submitted forged fake electors, saying that they were the duly certified electors, which is illegal. So now we got these subpoenas this morning. And then I got sexually assaulted. No, I know. It's not funny. I don't know why. I guess because I'm old, Well, I'm not really old. I'm only 2 years old. Do you know that? I'm only 2. You know why? Because after Trump left, every year I celebrate being reborn. So I'm really only 2 years old is what it is. Oh, my God. And we have a bomb cyclone coming. So, hey, it's your birthday. Let's have a bomb cyclone, which... Whatever happened to euphemisms? Why don't we, soften the blow? Why don't we used to call that a blizzard. When I was growing up in New York, we used to call what's happening there tonight and tomorrow a blizzard. But now we actually call it a bomb cyclone, which it's so traumatic sounding, it should cause everybody to run in and hide. But we're already doing that. So I guess, anyway. So yeah, I got sexually assaulted on my way to work today. This is unbelievable. Except it's true. So there's this guy, Brett knows him. There's this guy who's always out there, always flirting with me. He's, I would say, my age. And he's always telling me how hot I am and how I still look good for my age, which is supposed to make me feel, I don't know, good. Why is it? He's constantly checking me. So I pull up today in my car to my Commerce Park parking space, and I'm on the phone with Jess. And Jess is calling me to wish me a happy birthday and to tell me she sent me something and that she saw it was delivered. And did I open it? And so anyway, so I'm on the phone. So I give this guy who's lurking in front of my car. He's the same guy. He's always, flirting. Always say, I got to get next to you. I got to get with you. How am I going to get? And he's married, and blah, blah. And this has been going on for 5 years. So I give him the I'm on the phone sign thinking he'll go away. He'll just go away. So what does he do? He walks over, I just keep on talking to Jess, and then he finally walks over to the mailbox area, which is, across the parking lot from where I am. And so I think, phew, got through that. I don't have to talk to him today. Don't have to talk to him because he's so annoying. He's so inappropriately annoying, okay? Which is, okay, you're allowed to be annoying. It's a free country, right? So then finally he sees that I got out and he comes running over. Oh, man, look at you. You look so good, blah, blah, blah. What am I going to do to get? And on top of his annoying, inappropriate flirting, he won't get vaccinated. He's one of those. He's an anti-vaxxer. Jesus will save him kind of a thing. Uh-huh. And so I said to him, well, the first thing you got to do is get yourself vaccinated. That would be step one. If you really want to talk to me some more, I would suggest you get vaccinated. Oh, why should I get vaccinated? Everybody that's vaccinated, they all got COVID. They all got COVID. I said, yes, because it's very contagious, but we only get it for like 10 minutes. For 10 minutes. And I tell him, Brett, because I want to like bring up a strong male figure in my life. I go, well, Brett, upstairs, he got it, but he only got it for about 5 minutes. I got it, but I was only tested positive. I had no symptoms, blah, blah, blah. So why don't you think about getting vaccinated? That would be step one. So then he goes, oh, man, I just got to tell you how good you look and da-da-da-da and this and that. And I said to him, listen, I got to go. Today's my birthday. And I need to, go and, get to work and blah, blah. And he goes, oh, can I hug you? I'm like, no, you're not vaccinated. You can't hug me. So I turn around to walk away, and he grabs me from behind and literally gives me, I don't know how to say this to you, a purple nurple. I mean, how can I say it without saying the word nipple, which is disgusting to me. I don't know why. It's one of those words I don't like. It's like pus, to me. It's one of those words. And he literally twisted. He had a little twist there. And so my knee automatically, I spin around and my knee automatically goes up. I want to kick him in the ground. And then I realize he's an older man. I don't know why I feel so much younger than him. He's probably my age. But my knee goes and I want to kick, and I pull myself up. I said, you know what? If I kick him, it's going to start a thing and then I'll have to call police and blah, blah, blah. So happy birthday to me. And I guess, so I was explaining to Brett. Brett's like, I'm going to go talk to him.
Yeah, I was gonna talk to him. He's lucky he's vertical and not being brought up on charges.
I know. He's been annoying me for 5 years now. Okay, we've been working in this place for 5 years. He's been here the whole time. He works a couple doors, down from us. He's a freight booker for a trucking company, right? And, he's definitely in his mid-60s. There's no question in my mind about, and I just thought, maybe I should just be so flattered that at my age, people are still, and then I thought, no. You don't take, that as a cue that you're doing well. That is just, So anyway, I was doing fine. Even with the news that on my birthday, a bomb cyclone was on the way. You know what I mean? I just, because the news has been really, really good. Also, the gerrymander news, I told you, for me, and this guy would never know this about, how to really, flirt with me. I mean, if he came up to me and said, hey, man, the gerrymanders in Alabama and Texas are being thrown out. Well, I would be, I'd lean in. I would lean in for further conversation. I would lean in for further, exchanging of ideas. And, maybe that could. But a purple nurple, really, dude? Really? That's your. Yeah, just how did we get this way? How did we become so completely rude and disrespectful to each other? I don't know.
If he had left it at the sexual harassment,
right,
and then
which he does every time,
that would have been like, well, that was inappropriate. But
well,
at least
you've seen the
sexual
sexual
then moved
harassment.
on to sexual assault.
Yes, he crossed the line into the actual assault, the touching part, which you would think is the bright red line. You would think that that's the bright line that every man alive today interacting with a woman alive today would understand. That's where the line is. I remember I used to get calls from guys back in the early 2000s where they were so confused. Where is the line? We don't understand you people. And what's with this feminine? And where is your line? We don't know. We're all confused. And I would always say, if you touch me, you've crossed the line. Thank you, goodbye, and hang up on them, because how could you be that ignorant? How could you be that, stupid? But he literally went there. And yes, he's been harassing me sexually, saying inappropriate things to me for 5 years. And I just, shrug it off and just whatever. I changed the subject. That's why I told him it was my birthday, just to change. But oh hell no. He crossed the line.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
It must be frustrating for you to see these record growth numbers, record jobs numbers, and then see a majority of Americans still don't have confidence in Joe Biden's handling of the economy. 2 out of 3 Americans think the economy is getting worse, not better. Is that a messaging failure on Joe Biden's part, on your administration's part?
It's a COVID challenge, Mehdi. I mean, look, I think we can celebrate, and I know you just talked a little bit about this, the fact that we haven't had this kind of economic growth in 37 years. I mean, I was in preschool at that point in time. That's exciting. We're growing at a faster rate than China for the first time in 20 years. That's good. We're at record low unemployment rates. That's good. What we also know, though, is that we're still fighting a pandemic that is very much tied to inflation, is impacting issues like supply chain challenges we're seeing around the world, and is impacting also the psyche of the American public. And we know that is playing out in terms of how people feel about the economy and how they feel about their circumstances right now.
That's so true. And you know, but you do need to sell it better. I mean, the idea that Democrats don't sell progress, they don't sell their accomplishments the way that Republicans sell their do-nothing agenda. See, this is the crazy thing. The Republicans do have a do-nothing agenda. They have always had a do-nothing agenda outside of transferring wealth to the top 0.1%. That is what their entire reason for being is. And because that is their entire reason for being, and because they don't give a damn about you or me or anybody that works for a living or our kids, and they're not really pro-life, they're actually pro-death. They actually ask Americans to sacrifice themselves to go and cut meat for them. When we didn't even have a vaccine, right? Honestly, they fight against, mandates in the workplace, right? To the point where just go to work and die. Just go to work and die because you are an American, right? They have a do-nothing agenda. So what do? What do? They trash our culture over and over and over. Talk about cancel. They're literally trying to cancel school, cancel learning, cancel reading, cancel science, cancel governing, cancel everything. Everything. That's what they sell to their sycophants. That's what they sell to their followers. To the point where I got a guy who feels so emboldened to just grab me outside near in a parking lot, actually, and telling me that Jesus is going to protect him from the virus. I mean, it's so amazing to me. So we have to do better. We have to do better at telling people, hey, GDP for the year is at 5.7%. Last quarter, we almost did 7% growth. See, transferring the wealth to the very top 0.1% didn't cause any hoopla. It didn't cause any growth. In fact, when you look at the charts, you can see the last year of the Donald, negative territory, negative. And if you're really interested in things like history, you'll go back to the last year of W, 2008. Negative, 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 negative. People were losing everything. They were losing their 401ks. They were losing their savings. They were losing their houses. They were literally being evicted. They were literally being foreclosed. I mean, it's so unbelievable. And here we're sitting here in this moment where unemployment is literally 3.9%. 3.9%. Wages have grown about $1.50 an hour for hourly wages. The economy is growing last quarter at almost 7%, and 55% of Americans say it's not. The economy isn't good. It's not good. Now, there is inflation. The inflation is not the fault of Joe Biden. The inflation is a global supply chain that isn't functioning because people have COVID, either because they won't get vaccinated or they don't have access to the vaccine. And people just don't know. They don't know. They can't understand. They're just so confused and conflicted. And he's bad because he isn't able to be a demagogue. He's not P.T. Barnum. He can't talk to you like a sucker. He can't talk to you like the con man can. And he's certainly not entertaining. But he seems to be a very good president. A really capable, and competent man. But that's not going to stop the lunatic, fringy, propaganda machine that literally chose to spend Holocaust Memorial Day. I put an article in the homework today to show you how the world commemorated Holocaust Remembrance Day. It was a global thing, especially in Eastern Europe. You had countries that were, like Albania was very proud of its record when it came to saving Jewish people who were fleeing from Poland, who were fleeing from Germany. And then you had countries like, Poland and other that apologized. Austria apologized for what it let slide, for what it let happen. But on Fox News, they were very busy being anti-Semitic.
Anyone who dares to criticize George Soros is denounced as a bigot. They claim that disagreeing with an atheist billionaire is an act of prejudice. It's hate. George Soros may be one of the richest and most influential men in the world, but he would like you to know that he's also an oppressed victim of your unauthorized opinions.
You are a disgusting, disgraceful Nazi person. There's something so wrong. And it's getting so bad that CNN is literally interviewing ex-Fox News hosts to find out why is Fox doing this kind of crap.
Why do you think Tucker does this? And why do the Murdochs allow it? Do they not even care, or is it just about money and ratings, do you think?
Ratings, I think, first and foremost, but this is the result of fake news. We're seeing not only the fallout from fake news during the Trump era, but what happened with the insurrection on January 6th. And now it's moving into other areas, not just news. Now it's hitting science with vaccines, and now it's into Cold War politics. I mean, the idea that we were talking about whether or not we should support Ukraine or Russia, there wouldn't be a Republican on the planet that 5 years ago would have said that they would have supported Russia over Ukraine. But this is where we are now. Conservative television news is certainly not the conservative news that was out there even just 5 years ago.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's stunning. And since the insurrection, you mentioned that, we've learned that some big names over at Fox were acting almost as advisors to Trump, like Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham. And then their text came out where, it sort of suggests that they knew that there was a problem inside the Trump White House, and that problem being the president at the time. You worked at Fox. Does this surprise you that Fox anchors would be advising a president, advising a White House?
Not necessarily.
Not really. No, I'm not surprised. No. It's been going on quite a long time is what it is. No, this is not the Fox News of my birth. That's Gretchen Carlson there. Now, that's interesting because she was sexually harassed too. But she was able to be sexually harassed by people with deep pockets. See, and they made a movie about, they will not make a movie about my parking lot assault. They will not.
Connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Bigger story coming out of that is how disingenuous it was to be sending those texts of warning while then going on the air to the American people and doing a complete injustice and disservice by saying something completely opposite and ginning up this whole reaction that it was just fine and patriotic for people to be there on January 6th.
You mean lying?
Slowly but surely, this has morphed into eradicating any other point of view since the Trump era that is not just opinion. It's gone from an opinion, which was fine, to completely devolving into non-fact-based conspiracy theories and outright dangerous rhetoric in my mind. And I think it's a complete disservice to our country.
But when you were there, it was okay to lie, because that's what that channel has been doing. See, this always amazes me. This really does take me aback. How women, especially who worked there, knowing what the culture there actually was. And I knew what the culture there actually was because I went to one of their parties once, and I've told this story about 1 million times because it was awful. It was shocking and it was gross. it was a Fox party, and my boss at, the Dark Star, broadcast network, right, Clear Channel, she said, let's just go over there for a brief moment and say hello and blah, blah, blah. And Roger Ailes was there and Laura Ingraham was there. And remember I told you I will never forget the dress. She was wearing a powder blue Vivienne Westwood dress. It was beautiful. It was really gorgeous. And so I went over there to compliment her, and she goes, I hate you. You're such a you do nothing but lie about me. I said, I don't lie. And she was drunk. And then I ended up, over with Shepard Smith, and there were these barmaids. I don't know what to call them, and they were maybe 18 years old, maybe, and they were literally wearing body makeup. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like strippers do, and they had makeup on their whole bodies, their arms, their legs, everything, and they were wearing short shorts, and they were serving drinks to the men, and literally barely legal, maybe 18, just a week. And I just said to him, wow, what the hell is going on here? I mean, this is just so crazy for a corporate party to have this happening. And he said, oh, those are the Fox girls, right? And, Shepard actually ended up quitting and leaving. He was one of the first ones to bail. But she stayed. They put up with all this, crud, all this nonsense, all of this, handsy stuff, all of this lying. And I actually said to them at this point, what good do you think is going to come from doing this? I mean, and they're like, hey, ratings are great and money's rolling in and blah, blah. This was what it was for. They didn't care about the long-term effects of lying to the American people about the danger lurks behind every school door, or the danger is your teacher, or the danger is having a college education, the elite are doing. I said, but all of you people here, you're all Ivy League, SOBs. I couldn't even get a job here because I didn't graduate high school. I'm like the person you think you are. I'm like the guy that you say you are. But I won't lie, and I'm smarter than you because I know no good is going to come from this. And what is with these girls? So now, she's on her high horse, but at least she's it's always been about ratings. It's always been about money. That's all it's been about. But it was different 5 years ago. See, I love the way people do that. Oh, I wasn't responsible for this devolution into the Scopes monkey trial territory. That's where we are with this education crap. I heard people refer to it last night on the TV, and I said, bingo, that's it. That's where we are. Remember, yesterday I was telling you, I said, this is devolving into not just education and banning books and anti-Semitism and fascism, but it started with the trashing of science because they found the science inconvenient about climate change. And now it's downshifted into science about a freaking communicable, uber contagious virus, okay, doing literal economic harm to the entire freaking globe, but Jesus will save them or some such thing, right? And then they have the right to touch you or something. I mean, it's this sick, psychotic mindset, and it all came from that place. It all came from that place on 6th Avenue in New York City. It all came out of the mouths of these self-serving fascist pigs. And now all of a sudden they want to turn around and say, oh, well, it was different 5 years ago. No, it wasn't different 5 years ago. It wasn't different at all. The story that I just told you about, that happened like what, in 2014 or 2005? It wasn't any different. It was the same crud. All of yous got dirt on your hands. Ed in Chicago.
Hey, Randy, how you doing?
Good.
First of all, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
and I'm seriously, I told Brett, I'm seriously upset here. When some creep puts their hands on somebody who I love, I'm from the south side of Chicago. We handle business when things like that happen, if you know what I mean.
I do, and that's why I didn't want Brett to go talk to him, because I don't want it to escalate into something other than he's just a schmuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he put his hands on you.
He's always been inappropriate. He's, listen, I try to avoid this dude all the time. I try to avoid him. One day he just walked on in here and sat down in my studio, like literally right there in front of me, pulled up a chair and sat there. And I had to tell him, you have to leave because you're not vaccinated. Just go.
Wow, I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I'm happy about the news that we've been getting about the
news has it's been fabulous. You would not know it, though.
Yes. Randy, can I sing happy birthday to you?
Yeah.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Okay.
Happy birthday, dear Randy. Happy birthday to you.
You have a nice voice. Thank you.
Truck drivers can do more than drive a truck.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, so that...
Randy loves you, love everything about you. Please keep up the good work.
Oh,
I think we can hold on to both houses, and I think we can do what we have to. We have no choice.
I'm telling you, these gerrymanders are failing. They're failing in Ohio. We had I have a whole list of states. Pennsylvania, the governor of Pennsylvania, Tom Wolf, he just vetoed their gerrymandered map, so that's not going to work. Texas, you had a senior Texas state senator literally testify under oath to a judge saying these maps were drawn against the Voting Rights Act, and they were racially drawn in order to take voting rights away from minorities by splitting up their district and melding them into rural districts that were more Republican. So it's right. You're starting to see people actually say enough already with the racism. Even Republicans from Texas. I mean, this is a senior senator. His name is Kel Selinger.
From Texas?
From Texas. And he testified to the judge in this case, a sworn declaration. He submitted it as a part of an ongoing federal court challenge to this map. And he said, and he had redistricting experience from 2010, from 10 years ago when the census came out. And he believes that his party violated federal voting laws when it drew the new boundaries for the state Senate district in Fort Worth. And testified that way. Yeah, so it's starting to percolate.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
But we have a country that is based on human rights, democracy, and so forth. But I'll tell you what Lincoln thought, what Washington thought, and what people today still think. It's an experiment. It's an experiment. That's what they said. We are now engaged in a great civil war to determine whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. See, those are the words I want. To see. An experiment. And that's what he thought. It's an experiment. And I found some letters that George Washington wrote where he said the same thing. It's an experiment. That experiment existed then because even the liberals in Europe, they're looking over here and they're saying it's a great idea in principle, but it'll never work. But we'll show them it does. That's what Washington thought. And that's what Lincoln thought. And that's what people still think today. And I say, I want you, and I'm talking to the students now. I say, I want you to pick just this up. It's an experiment that's still going on. And I'll tell you something. You know who will see whether that experiment works? It's you, my friend. It's you, Mr. High School student. It's you, Mr. College student. It's you, Mr. Law School students. It's us, but it's you. It's that next generation and the one after that. My grandchildren and their children. They'll determine whether the experiment still works. And of course, I am an optimist, and I'm pretty sure it will. Does it surprise you that that's the thought that comes into my mind today?
No, it should not be surprising to anybody that a retiring Supreme Court justice is warning us about a civil war speech or the idea that America is fragile and seriously just an experiment in self-governing, and that we're getting unbelievably close to being unable to do so because of propaganda, lies. And if he's looking to students to save the day, then he must realize that that is why fascists burn books. He must. He's smart. He reads. He understands American history. He understands European history. He understands World War II. He lived through it. Stephen Breyer yesterday at his farewell speech decided to tell you, warning, Will Robinson, danger, danger, danger. I'm a sunny optimist, so I think everything will be, okay if the students can read. He's standing in front of a bookshelf. They are attacking the ability for students to read. This is why I was talking about the Scopes monkey trial. You know that happened in Tennessee, right? And just to refresh, the Scopes monkey trial was about the ability to teach evolution science in Tennessee schools. And this attack on the Mouse book, which is a comic book about the author's parents' experience in the Holocaust, is the latest book to be banned in Tennessee, where, by the way, we've learned that only 30% of their students are at reading level. So if you're in 8th grade, only 30% of the 8th graders read at the 8th grade reading level. And these school board members were probably a victim of that same educational system in the Tennessee. This is really, this is creepy, and it's horrible, and it's ugly, and it's wrong, and it's all designed to keep people just completely ignorant of recent history, of the history of this country, of what it takes to continue the experiment. I'm telling you, that's why I think Breyer yesterday was giving a warning about what is happening here. And then, sure as anything, the propaganda channel starts again, right?
He will make his pick based purely on race and gender, and promised only an African-American woman will be selected. Jonathan Turley, a Democrat, questions the constitutionality of this criteria. He wrote this: precisely what the Supreme Court already declared to be unconstitutional: discrimination. We'll have more of his article coming up, and we'll break it all down as unlawful, potential, unconstitutional strategy.
Yes, because Sean Hannity is so race blind. Sean Hannity lives by the letter of the Constitution. First of all, Jonathan Turley is not a Democrat. Jonathan Turley is a libertarian. And I know this because I know Jonathan Turley and have known Jonathan Turley since 2000. That's 20 some odd years that I've known Jonathan Turley. He's always been a libertarian. He's still a libertarian. And Jonathan Turley is incorrect about what Biden said about appointing an African-American woman is unconstitutional. When you consider H.W. Bush, when he was looking to replace Thurgood Marshall, told America that he would choose another African-American to replace Thurgood Marshall. And he did, except it was Clarence, who, by the way, needs to recuse himself from the upcoming, affirmative action case, ridiculously enough, because his wife is a lobbyist for those groups that brought the case. Anyway, different day, different subject. But didn't Trump promise that when he was going to announce Amy COVID Barrett, that he was going to appoint a woman? Didn't Reagan say he was going to appoint the very first woman to the Supreme Court when he picked Sandra Day O'Connor, who had no federal experience? She was a state judge, which is fine. But so what all of a sudden, what has changed? What has changed? The pressure of the change. How to identify oh, that's right. Biden is the president. And he's doing the picking. Because when H.W. said black man, nobody had a problem with it. When, Trump said a woman, no one had a problem with it. When Reagan said first woman, no one had a problem. Jonathan Turley wasn't saying it's unconstitutional for the president to have his pick. And to tell the American people, I have some of the most unbelievably astute, qualified, intellectual, gifted women that I've been talking to about if this ever happened for years, and I'm going to choose one of them. How is that unconstitutional? Obviously, it's not. This is them, though. This is what they do. And their people don't know history. They were not taught history. They don't, like everything I just said, it's probably news to them. That They couldn't even remember that Trump promised he was going to appoint a woman. They can't remember that H.W. said he was going to appoint a black man. They certainly don't remember that Ronald Reagan said he was going to pick the first woman. And they definitely don't remember any of this at all. And it all happened in their life.
I want Hannity to come out and say, I don't want black women represented at that level ever.
Yeah, right.
You could go as far back to Bush the first, who, when Thurgood Marshall tragically died, went out of his way to find a black person to replace him, and really, quite frankly, found a much more conservative person than he could have ever gotten confirmed if he had found a white person that had Clarence Thomas's views. And you don't have to go back to Bush 41, because you can go to Donald Trump, who said directly, while Brett Kavanaugh was taking water and Republicans were saying, you should nominate this other person, Amy Coney Barrett. No. I'm saving her for Ginsburg. Then when Ginsburg passed away, he said he wanted a woman to replace Ginsburg. Then the National Review wrote that they wanted a woman to replace Ginsburg so that they would have a woman with them when they overturned Roe v. Wade.
Yes.
So the hypocrisy of these people literally knows no bounds.
It's, Ellie, I just want to say, that's Ellie Mistel. He's a constitutional scholar. I just want to say, Ellie, it's not really that much hypocrisy. What it is ignorance. They don't even remember. Sean Hannity is a doofus. I used to have this battle with myself all the time about Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity because I worked in between them. Like Rush's show would end, then I would start, and then Sean would come on after me at 6 o'clock, okay? And I would spend my entire day debunking their lies. I literally would sit there debunking their lies. And every time they said a sentence, it was like an hour's worth of work to debunk their lies. I truly know. And I used to say, I know Rush Limbaugh knows what he's doing is wrong and a lie, but is he just dumb as a rock? No, it's true. Sean is dumb as a rock. He is. He's just a dummy. He's a dummy who honestly doesn't remember that Ronald Reagan vowed to pick the first and nominate and confirm the first woman to the Supreme Court, which you didn't even mention, or that H.W. said that he was going to replace Thurgood Marshall with an African-American also. And then he found the most conservative, also a molester, apparently, an assaulter of women, Kavanaugh too, to sit on the Supreme Court, but had enough melanin in his skin to make it the first, the black man that would replace the black man. And I just, they don't even, I mean, he doesn't. Tucker does realize what he's doing is, totally hypocritical. Now, Sean does on the insurrection, because he was texting one thing to the president and saying another.
Mary had a little man.
The fourth, we believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Backlash growing after a Tennessee school board decided to ban a Pulitzer Prize-winning book about the Holocaust. The McMinn County School Board voting unanimously to remove the book from its 8th grade curriculum, saying it was too adult-oriented due to its unnecessary use of profanity and nudity and its depiction of violence and suicide.
Oh, God.
The graphic novel Mouse by Art Spiegelman tells the true story of how his parents survived the Holocaust, with the victims depicted as mice and the Nazis as cats.
Education is the antidote to ignorance, whether it's about the Holocaust or any other issue. And so we are doing our kids a disservice when we don't give them the facts as they were.
The Tennessee School Board says it's working to find other age-appropriate books and says the board members do not diminish the value of Mouse as an impactful and meaningful piece of literature, nor do we dispute the importance of teaching our children the historical and moral lessons and realities of the Holocaust.
A lawyer
But a
wrote that.
recent survey found only 45% of Americans know how many Jews were killed by the Nazis, 6 million. And anti-Semitic crimes have risen 12% in the last year.
Jeez.
Earlier this month, 4 people, including a rabbi, were held hostage at a synagogue in Texas.
And in New York, which is a, welcoming place for everyone and has a large Jewish population. A woman, I think it was last week or the week before, literally spit on. She spat on a young Jewish boy. I mean, the synagogues, the Poway thing, and the Tree of Life in Pittsburgh thing. I mean, this is just the Charlottesville. Jews will not replace us. Well, no, I almost said it. No crap, Sherlock. We're like what, 2/10 of the population, and they're marching with their tiki toys. Jews will not replace. We have other things to do besides for just have 12, 15, 20 kids to replace you. We're not that prolific. Our families are not that large. But yeah, this is sick. And it's Tennessee again. Tennessee was in the 1920s, they had the very first trial about teaching science in school. The Scopes monkey trial was called that because they said, oh, they want to teach that we came from monkeys. They want to teach that we're monkeys. And people literally fell in line and started screaming about evolution isn't real, even though Darwin had written his book decades earlier. I mean, and the proof is in the pudding of where we actually came from. But this is Oklahoma schools. They want to allow parents to demand the removal of any book from a school library, and each parent will now have this private right of action, which is vigilantism, right? It's based all on this Texas abortion law, right? Where they'll get $10,000 a day bounty if the library doesn't remove the book of their choice in 30 days. Then the clock starts ticking on their bounty money. And for each day after 30, 31, 32, they get $10,000 a day. I mean, this is radical. This is radical fascism. There are 70 bills in 27 states literally banning books. Did you realize it was like that big of an epidemic? It is. 70 bills in 27 states, all born of a lie, all to address a problem that we don't have. It's just like the voting crap. All these, election, laws, all of these, we're going to purge our rolls and we're going to take away drop boxes and no one's going to be able to vote by mail. We don't want same-day registration. We want 90 forms of ID now, right? All of this was to solve a problem we don't have. We don't have voter fraud. We have election fraud, which we just learned. We have sedition and seditious conspiracy, which we just learned. It's rare, but we had it because of a demagogue, because of a psycho president, because of a narcissist, which is a nice word for a P.T. Barnum who believes that his followers are suckers, for a cult leader, right? But we have all of this to solve a problem we don't have. Critical race theory. We're not teaching critical race theory to any public school attendee. I don't care what grade we're talking about. And this thing about, I actually, a lot of people in my audience went out and bought a new copy of Mouse, because a lot of you actually know that book and a lot of you actually had that book, and some of you actually lost that book, or when you moved, you didn't take that book. And so everybody went out and they bought a new copy of Mouse, which is wonderful. It's a Pulitzer Prize winning effort. It took 13 years for the author to finish this book. He did it because his parents had a story and he wanted to tell it, because unfortunately, after his parents and he as a child were held in a Nazi concentration camp, when they were liberated, his mother killed herself in a bathtub. It's very Dexter. And so one little tiny frame in the comic book, which is a frame within a frame, it's just like a little postage stamp sized frame. Now remember, the people that represent his parents are represented in this comic book as mice. The Nazis are represented as cats. So what Tennessee is saying was nudity that was inappropriate for an 8th grader was a naked mouse. Wasn't a human body. It was a naked, nude, stark raving nude mouse. And the curse word that they're reacting to was damn and son of a bitch, which the former president of the United States called members of the media. So this is all faux, and it's all meant to sell something to the base of a party that is a do-nothing party. And you know it's a do-nothing party because as soon as we change parties and as soon as we change representation and as soon as we, even though it's razor-thin majorities that we enjoy in both the House and the Senate, 5 votes in the House, and the vice president makes the difference in the Senate, and the president of the United States, since we've changed parties, we have seen growth in this country in the middle of a pandemic, the likes of which no one thought possible. And if it weren't for the global supply chain problem affecting the inability for the things that we want to buy being available as easily as they were prior to the pandemic, making the price of those items higher because there's less of them and supply and demand being the way things work, things are more expensive. And a third of the price increases that we're experiencing are cars, and another third of the price is gasoline and oil and gas products, and the price of them are controlled by Russia and OPEC nations, which are the Middle Eastern nations and Venezuela. So the people that are doing this to you, are the people that Fox is defending. The people whose side they are taking in this inflation argument. And now it should be self-evident to you. Why? Because Biden must fail. Biden must fail. So if OPEC and Russia are inflating the cost per barrel, stick up for them. Now, I got to tell you, this idea that, there was a suicide in this book. It's Romeo and Juliet ended in a double suicide. You know that, right? Catcher in the Rye that was taught in 8th grade. I think it still is, probably, the J.D. Salinger book. Holden Caulfield, the protagonist in that book, the narrator in that book, was a 16-year-old in a mental institution telling you how he got there, right? You understand that? And it was all because his family experienced a child's death and sent him and his remaining sister to boarding school, like Tucker.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Okay, so there was a vote in the Florida House to pass this school bill. Okay, to ban books, literally to ban books, to not make children uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form. And I'm telling you, all these books that we were taught and are still taught in 8th grade as part of the curriculum, like Catcher in the Rye, which is a classic about a 16-year-old boy. He sees a lot of crap and he hears a lot of crap, and you got sexual things going on in that book. You got probably a rape in that book. We probably got a molestation by his English teacher in that book. You got all kinds of things. And the reason why that book was so beloved, Brett loved it. He still remembers reading it. We were just talking about it. I loved it. It was one of my all-time favorite books, is because I read it when I was, 13 or 14, and it's told in the voice of a 16-year-old who is very depressed and is seeing all kinds of bad behavior on the part of his boarding school friends, his English teacher friends, older guys. They're doing crazy stuff to girls. They're getting even with guys who rat on them by locking the door and doing stuff that are so reprehensible that he says he can't even tell you what it is. But it resonates with a teenager because it's told by a teenager, and it helps make teenagers feel like their thoughts are pretty freaking normal. Same thing with teaching the Holocaust. It's a horror of a story because it is a horror show of humanity's lowest actors being in positions of power and what psychopaths can do to entire countries and societies, people, persons, places, and things, and then sit in a room for 10 minutes literally and come up with something called the final solution to the Jewish problem. And when you teach that to children, it lets them know that these things are possible, rare, possible, and that they can actually prevent them in their lives and that their lives mean something. But anyway, they had this, it wasn't exactly a debate, it was a hearing just ahead of the passage of this bill in Florida. And one of our representatives, this is a representative from Tallahassee. He is an amazing representative. I never knew of him before. I just stumbled. I've been watching the Florida channel because it has covered what's going on in Florida with regard to the confirmation of Joseph Ladapo, this psycho that won't admit that vaccines prevent severe COVID and hospitalizations because, you know, he's making, $250-something thousand a year by offering himself up as our Surgeon General. And just straight Republicans voted to confirm him after the Senate Democrats had to walk out because he was not answering their questions, which were simple yes or no questions. But this is a Florida State representative from Tallahassee. His name is Raymond Alexander. And I never knew him. I still don't know him. But I followed him on Twitter after I watched this. I just want to play you what he said and what the response to what he said was.
But the last debate was actually offensive. And, I'm really sick of this stuff, And it takes a lot to even mentally prepare to participate in this type of situation. I woke up this morning early just to attempt to spiritually prepare myself. And so I hear about guilt and feeling a certain type of way, but you can only imagine how I feel just reading the bill. We can talk about subjectivity, we can talk about objectivity, but when it's all said and done, and I'm going to say this as professionally that I can, y'all got to find another way to communicate to your base. You got to find another way to communicate.
Representative Alexander, if you can keep it to your comments to the bill and not direct it to the motivations of the members that are on this committee in either party, please. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair, but I think the motivations is the reason why we're having the bill.
I understand that may be your belief and why you think it's motivations, but we are not speaking about motivations. We are speaking about the content of the bill, and we have done a very good job of staying on the content of the bill during the conversation today. So I would appreciate you trying to stay in that space as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I did that for a reason, to show you exactly what's going to happen in our school system. So let's try this out, for example. Let's go to the classroom, and the teacher talks about and explains what happened in slavery. They go through the basic details, starting in 1619. They give some input about slavery, some basic textbook things. And then an inquisitive student raises their hand. They say, well, Madam Teacher, why did it happen? Why did slavery happen? And then they may even add, how did it happen? And then the teacher steps back, and now what does the teacher do? Because there's going to be some subjectivity in opinion, in their view. People are struggling. They are living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of them don't have a paycheck. And so instead of addressing systemic poverty, instead of addressing all of these issues that impact people's quality of life, we are using these distraction tools because you know what? If race didn't matter, if all these issues didn't matter, we wouldn't have this bill. If race didn't matter and this stuff didn't poll well to get people to come out and vote and cause a dadgum insurrection, we wouldn't have these type of bills. And so we do it over and over again, and we find the next boogeyman to distract from the reality that 28 of these 29 counties keep voting for you instead of addressing the issues that impact people's quality of life every day. I don't want to do this, but I don't think you can handle the truth. I do not like having conversations like this. It eats me up on the inside because I know there's some admirable, good people over there. And half of y'all are uncomfortable with voting for this bill yourself. But you don't want to get primaried in your election.
And there you have it. And there you have the real reason. They are a do-nothing party, but they need to sell something to their base. And so they're selling to their base concerns about books. Concerns.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. You know, what do you make of this concerted effort to take away books? It's not just yours, but others that deal with the Holocaust. In one state, they were saying that if students learn about the Holocaust, they have to hear the other side, as if there's another side.
Yes, of course. I mean, I always thought that English, which was one of my favorite subjects way back when I was in school, was about learning how to get inside somebody else's head. That's what it's about. It's not about being programmed. It's not about being taught, you must be a better person, see, or you must avoid Jews because, or whatever. It's really about climbing into somebody else's head.
That's all it is. It's about talking to somebody. It's about whispering in somebody's, I always called it the little voice that reads to me. When you read, that voice that's actually telling you the words, that's the little voice that reads to me, for me. And I love that. See, I love reading. So, it's just a way to get really intimate in somebody's head. And then their critical thinking skills can take over. And they can decide if they relate to this story and why do they relate to this story and what is it about this story that is speaking to them or not speaking to them. What is it about this book that you like or don't like? And if you don't like it, put it down. And if you do like it, you can sit there and eat the whole thing in an hour and a half. Reading is amazing. But, this is just a ploy. This is to literally turn one American against another based on Salem witch trial type suspicions and concerns by a handful of people in this country who want to speak on behalf of all the children. They want, see, this is the crazy part. And that's why, they're now downshifting into election police, secret police, censorship of books, destroying culture itself by not explaining what it is, our culture, to our children so they can orient themselves and, be American, fully American, with all of its joys and all of its triumphs and all of its warts and all of its problems. Censorship. When you start to censor information, fact-based information, when you start to destroy the culture itself, when you set up snitch lines like the governor of Virginia, this Youngkin dude, you know about his snitch lines, right? He set up an email address where people could snitch on teachers who they felt were disrespectful to America. Seriously, snitch lines that encourage parents to complain so that they could then intimidate the teachers who dared to talk about the founding of America truthfully and any other topics that seem to be displeasing to the conservative bunch that voted for him, okay, and to the detriment of everybody else. Because, everybody else believes that history ought to be taught accurately, that facts matter, right? But they want everything distorted. They want everything distorted, everything to lay nicely with their conservative politics. And the politicians who do nothing for any of those constituents on any level about anything are doing this thing so that they can then say they did something. Secret police, really? Election police in Florida? A narrow, very narrow ideological view of this country is going to now censor the real history of this country at the behest of politicians who want ignorant people. Now, why education? Okay, I have two reasons why I think education. I think, first of all, it's because an ignorant population makes for a very good workforce, just like a menial workforce that never questions wages, that never questions the circumstances that landed them in this dead-end job, instead of a population of critical thinkers, instead of a population that literally wants something better or more or hopes for their children to do better than they did. Just nip that in the bud and just make a really reliable sort of robotic workforce. That is one of the reasons why information is censored by autocrats. And then the other reason, school, is because if they literally break public school, if they chill public school thought and discussion, and they literally make it worthless, a worthless effort, and only the poorest of Americans are subject to it because everyone else is paying for private school because they know that schools have been broken. Well, doesn't that inure to the benefit of the elite? Doesn't that create an entire elite that can afford to educate their children differently than public schools? Yes, it does. And doesn't that actually inure to the profitability of the people who own this country, who set up the schools? Yes, it does. Like, our last Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos. What was her goal? It was to break public schools. She just sucked at it, but she that's what her goal, her set goal was. And now they're doing it. They are literally solving a problem we don't have, teaching critical race theory to children. We don't bother to do that because they would never understand it anyway. It has to do with the law. So they're trying to solve a problem we don't have, and the election police is also being deployed. The snitch police, the secret police, the watchers, the minders, the thought police, all of it is to break. It's literally to break democracy. It's literally thought control. It's literally control of the workforce. It's just, and it's all to serve up something that the do nothing agenda of the Republican Party. They don't even have a platform. You know that. They have no stated goals or principles or they have no objectives, nothing they're trying to accomplish. But they're going to prey on the delicate. They're going to prey on the frightened. They're going to play off of the fragile and feed them fear and distrust and all of it. And what you're going to see is a disturbing spike in harassment and intimidation and threats of violence against school teachers, threats of violence against school boards. We've already seen it. Threats of violence against the election workers, already seen it. The messages that are being left on their machine, we're going to hunt you down, we're going to hang you. Secretaries of state, we're going to try you, we're going to, do a court and then execute you because we're going to adjudicate you guilty of treason or sedition, which is stuff they're doing. I mean, it's bizarre. It's bizarre because we don't have a problem. And what are they doing? They're giving people this private right of action. Well, what does that translate into? The right to sue. Who? Teachers. I thought the Republicans were against a litigious society Weren't they the ones that talked about frivolous lawsuits against doctors and frivolous lawsuits against Big Pharma and frivolous lawsuits against, now they're all for it. They're all for it. Weird.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Okay, this happened. This was sent to me by Mike. Mike, who lives in the San Francisco Bay Area. A couple days ago, he saw this on the Young Turks, one of the shows he watches over there. This happened in Alabama. It's real. It's somebody's Ring doorbell recorded this exchange at the door.
Can I help you? Hey, good afternoon. We are white nationalists, and we're going around hoping to talk to people about things white people in the United States. I hope just to have a few minutes to talk about that.
Did you say you're a white nationalist?
We're not interested, thank you.
No worries. Ma'am, do you think we could leave a flyer for you? Hey, you guys have a good day. Thanks for your time.
White nationalists. They don't even bother to wear hoods anymore, okay? They don't even bother to cover their faces anymore. They're out in the open, in broad daylight, knocking on your door, trying to, find converts. What are you, Jehovah's Witnesses now? Door to door, white nationalism? This is insane. But this is the permission. This is the permission that came from the President of the United States, former, right? This is the permission he gave people to do this in broad daylight when he said there are good people on both sides after Charlottesville. Again, during broad daylight, those people with tiki torches in khaki pants, marching, screaming anti-Semitic crap, racist, ugly, disgusting, dirty crap. But that's not pornography to the right wing. That's not horrific. That's not something that when you see it, you know it's wrong. No. That's white nationalism.
They seem like nice young men to me. I'm just asking questions. What's wrong with it?
Yeah, what's wrong with just asking, are you interested in being a racist? What's wrong with it? Can I just leave a pamphlet of racism, with you so that I could call you later? Maybe you'll come to one of our meetings. That is a permission slip that they feel they were given, a hall pass, if you must, if you might, if you may, to do this in broad daylight. That is where we're going. Oh, no, I'm wrong. That's where we are. Johnny in Texas.
Here's my question. Who's paying for this so-called snitch line and to man it and all that? Taxpayers?
Yes.
And if so, yes?
Yes, of course. It's a .gov website.
So the Republicans managed to get that stuff paid for, but we can't even manage to do simple things. How tragic.
We have done.
How about we have our own snitch line?
How about we have done amazing things while they occupy themselves with snitch lines? That's really what's happened here. I mean, you see the growth in this country. You see wages going up. You see all the leverage with the workers now. You see people trying to unionize at Starbucks. You see people getting child tax credit checks. You see people getting help with education money. You see a lot of stuff happening, right? But instead of talking about the stuff that is happening, they are actually setting up snitch lines.
Yeah, they're creating stories out of nothing.
Right. They're responding to problems. People. We have real problems, but we have real presidents and real Congress members and real senators who are trying to solve real problems. The difference between us and them is that they have no intention of solving anybody's problem. Instead, they need something to sell. So they'll sell sheer Salem witch trial garbage. Well, if she floats, then she's a witch. But if she drowns, she's not.
Yeah, well, going along that storyline right there, what you're saying is correct, is that they are socially engineering future clock punchers. That's all they care about.
That's right.
And we need to expose that every single damn day.
That's right. And that's
happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. But that is really the goal here. The goal here is to dismantle every public good, every public common space, every public, agreement that we have by virtue of us agreeing to pay taxes, and in exchange we'll get, Social Security so we don't have to be poor in our old age. Medicare so we can get medical when we need medical the most in our senior years, right? Public school for our children, even for those who can't afford any education. I mean, do we really want to go down the road of the girls can't go to school unless you can afford to pay private schools? Or the girls don't get to go to high school unless you can afford private tuition? Because that is where they would like to land us, so that child labor becomes a thing. Brother David. Oh, hi.
Absolutely, sister. As it was in the days of the brown shirts, heck, as it was in the days of ancient Rome. I was calling on behalf of the chat room. Hi, chat room. You know what to do. To wish you a happy natal day.
Thank you.
And then I heard about what happened to you this morning, and all of this is, to me, completely interrelated. It's all systemic. It has to do with, as you have said, one side has nothing to offer, so to stay in power and to slowly turn us into a drone slave state. Let's stop letting children learn things. But the other thing is, and I'm reminded of my other goddess, the Eleanor Roosevelt of acting at the Golden Globes that year, bringing up how electing someone who could make fun of disabled reporters and talk about grabbing women by the you-know-what was giving license for the populace, that sector of the populace, to behave thusly. And now it's just out in the open. And then that thing that Mike sent you, there it is. They're not even hiding anymore. It's completely exposed, and it is fascism. It can't happen here. It can happen here.
It's happening. It's
here.
literally happening. You had a Supreme Court justice after 27 years on the bench, and what did he choose to leave us with? He chose to leave us with, it's a republic if you can keep it. Basically, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
what Franklin said.
And he said, and I hope many of you might be surprised that this is the thought that comes to me today. No, it's not surprising. He sees it, he hears it, he knows it, and this is the cream of the crop. This is the elite of the elite. This is the tippy top that is now saying, "Oh, and by the way, they're coming for you." But you know what, David? We can come for them too. So here's one of the things I want you to give a lot of thought to over the weekend. The 14th Amendment of the Constitution, I know, but this is where we have to go. We have to go to ground. We have to go to the original. We have to go to the offering that we had. We have to go to the original deal, the original contract with America, right? And the 14th Amendment, Section 3, tells us that if somebody, and this is crazy because there's very few prohibitions on who can serve in government. You understand? They're like the president, I think the only qualification is 35 years of age and be naturally born, right? Congress members, I think 24 years old. You can check me, but I think it's 24 years old. And other than that, what other qualifications do you need to possess? 0. I call that a job with no barrier to entry. Okay? There is one other thing, though, and it's in the 14th Amendment, Section 3, and it says that if you aided, abetted, encouraged, participated in an insurrection, right, and you tried to help somebody overturn the government or attack the government or prevent the government from being able to function or do its job like it was trying to do in an official proceeding on the 6th of January, well, then you are ineligible to be a member of Congress. You are ineligible to be a senator or a House. There were 147 members of Congress who chose after the violence to still not certify those electors, who knew that there were fake slates of electors, who knew that 7 states had sent phony slates of electors, forged slates of electors. I would say that's aiding and abetting and helping an insurrection. I would say that they lent their honor and their loyalty to somebody looking to destroy the United States. And they did it by violence, no less. It didn't have to be by violence. Could have been just the bloodless coup that they had planned. Now remember, Donald Trump did two things. Not only did he incite a riot at the end when it was the last play he had, but he actually was planning a coup, and he was planning it for months. And there's text messages and phone calls that said, just, to the Department of Justice saying, just say that you have questions about the election and then leave it to me and the R's in Congress. The R's, the Republicans in Congress. See, all of them must be removed from these positions of high honor bestowed upon them by the people because they betrayed the people. So that's something you need to think about, and it's something you need to read about, and it's something you need to own and learn, because North Carolina is moving to do that against Madison Cawthorn. Let's hope he's just the first. Thank you for your kindness.